So now we have the credit.dat file create. What in here? Actually, in this binary file, we only have 100 empty account object information. So now we kind of have our database ready. So now if the user try to create any client data, how can we add that? For example, like here, we can ask the user what account they want to create. So the first thing, they can specify their account number. So then we continue to extend the last name, first name, and the balance. So we extend each space between each attribute. So if they done, we continue to extend to enter the account number. So if that's 0, we just end of the input. So after we have so many information for each account, how should we update the account information? So on the other hand, for example, now I enter the account number is 28, right? So I should be able to find the correct location since now I allowed to have 100 accounts. So that's why I need to find the correct location to update the 28th account number with their new first name, last name, and their balance. Can you do that? We can. Did you remember how you will find the correct location? Right, just like earlier, when you create the random access file, you need to have the default object, right? But at that time, your default object, all the attribute is by default. But now here, since the user gives us the account number, last name, first name, and balance, we just have a default object. We update those information. Then we write the update object information to correct location. So that's why we can update the account information. And we can use the write to do that. So that's why here we will see the example in the example 5. So this example 5, we will just like the output we showed you earlier. We prompt to the user to extend to give us the account number so we can create the account information and update account information. So the same thing, we still have our the file from the credit.dat file. But now you can see here, actually we will do two things. We will do the read and the write. Because the first thing, like I told you, right? Remember, when we have the user enter, the account number is 28. So then I need to write the account last name, first name, balance to update. So the first thing I need to do is I need to read from the file to find the account location for 28. So then after I read from that location, according to that location, then I will update object information, then I write into that. So that's our example here. Did you remember earlier I told you, if you want to create to access a random access binary file, you want to do that both input and output, you can just create a F string. So I told them the file name. So then actually here I can allow to do the input, I can do the output, and I read and write in the binary. So the same thing, right? So you see here, if I didn't find that file, I just print the error message. So then here you see, I will have the account number, last name, first name, and the balance. So this one is for what? This one is for the user input. So after I got the user input, I will write to the object to update my information. So here in line 33, your client data, again, this one is the default, we call default constructor. So this object after we create, this client object contain what information? They have all the private data is default because they call default constructor. So account number is 0, last name is no string, first name no string, then balance equal to 0. But I have this one is later, I will using this object to read and write. So now you see, like earlier we say, right? So please enter your account number. So that's why I see in my account number. So as long as your account number not equal to 0, so we continue. So as long as your account number greater than 0 and between less than equal to 100, right? That's read the information. So I continue to get user input for my last name, first name, and balance. After I have my last name, first name, balance, so I'm using this information and the account number to update earlier the client object. Remember, that's what we call the default constructor. So then this default constructor, we need to update the account number using the setter function. Last name, setter function. First name, setter function. Balance, setter function. So after we update those information, so now this client object has all our information. Did you remember earlier we entered account number 28, last name White, first name Snow, and we have the balance. Right, so I have this object now, right? So I should using the right to write this object information. But where? Right, so we need to find the location, right? Because we want it sequentially. If your account number is 28, I want you to be in the correct location. So right, I need to using the right to write my object. But before that, I need to looking for where is my file pointer should be in the correct location. So did you remember we have seek P? So this seek P actually will have your file pointer at the right location. So what is location? Actually, the byte will equal to the object size, then times the index, right? Right, so that's why you see here, we're using the size of the client data. So all the client data, they have the same size. So then here you will see, because your account number is 28, but actually we start from index 0 to calculate that. So your account number is 28. That's mean you are start from after you have 27 object. So we're using the account number minus 1 times the size. So then after you find this location, where is the location in the file? So then you put your file pointer. So after you have your correct file pointer, right? So then we write. So this time we're still using the same thing to write the file. You still have the size of the data type. You still have your object. Okay, so then here, by this object client, the reference location, since you already have the information here, so when we write, they will write correctly. So then we just continue. So this one is, we will write the file. We will write the account information into our random access file. So after we run this program, you finish. So look like they add all the update information into our client.dat file, right? But how you verify that? So that's why I continue. After in the example 5, we update all the data. Now the next one is, how about we go to print out all the information from our binary file. So in our example 6, what you will see is, after you update our credit.dat file, so now how about we print out all the information? So then here you will see the output. We will try to get one by one. So we read account information. So as long as your account ID not equal to 0, because the 0 actually is our default value. So then if their account ID being updated, that means this client data is being updated. So then we just print out one by one in the console. So of course, in order to print one by one, we need to read from the object, then get your last name, first name, and balance, and print one by one. So that's what we will do to verify the data we entered in example 5. They did do correctly. So that's why here, since we only want to read, So we can create one IF string. So then we only do the read. So we do the ILS in. So we read as binary. So if we cannot find the file, so we print the information. So we need to print the information in the console. So we have our header display here. So now how to read? So actually this one we will read from the beginning, right? Right. So that's why here we just need to have, so we just still have a while loop. So while our IF string not reach the end of file, so then I will continue to read. But after you read, actually how you will read? You will read into what? So remember earlier we have our random access file, right? So each data we're using the entity is object. So that's why the same thing, when you try to read, you need to read the entity is an object. So that's why you specify the size of your data. So then when you do the read, you still read as the byte. But here, after you read, right, they will save the update information into the object, in the client object. So that's why when we want to read, we still need to have an object. So this object actually kind of the placeholder. So I'm using this object to read from the content in the binary file. So that's why here when we read, right? So that's why we have the object. So this one actually, before we start the while loop, we just read from the beginning. Because sometimes you may not get any value. So if your in credit read cannot read any value, so then that means you don't have anything to read. Okay, so this one, actually the either one is fine. But one thing we just, in case, when we not reach the end of file, we still have something is empty data. So that's why here we will have maybe if not equal to 0, so we continue. So here actually you can just start reading. So this one actually is the first data we have. So we start read from the beginning. So then you have the first object read into the client object. So if it's not end of the file, so that's why we can display the information. But remember, when you display the information or only the account number not equal to 0, we will display. Because if the account number is equal to 0, that means this account is not being updated with the new account value. So here your output line, you just passing the client object. So then you passing to, you want to display in the console output. So that's why here you have an output line function. So this one is passing the OF string, O string. So then you have your client data passing by constant. So then we just set correct width for each data. So you're using the raker as your object name. So to get account number, you call all the getter function to display the account number, last name, first name, and your balance. So then before the while loop, of course, you can read it again. So that's why here your output display all the account information. So that's mean earlier when we try to get the user input and write to the binary file, we did do that correctly in the example 5. So in example 6, we just display the information.